another review. If you notice by the facial hair and the fact my hair is a mess, and this right here is what I call the grandpa show. I am currently relaxing on a much needed break due to the snow. Anyone who lives around here, it's been a very snowy day, and I thought today would be a perfect day to give a review. Seeing as to the movies have been lighter on things to review, I thought it'd be a great chance to do something out of the box, pun intended. Uh, as you could tell by my title, this review is going to be about The Bird Box, a little movie that Netflix made that's gotten a lot of buzz, and I was meaning to do a review on it when it first came out. However, with everything else that I've been doing, I've been a little bit busy, and I want my reviews to kind of go over every single different area of media that I watch. And my next one to cover was streaming. Now, before we get started in this review, I want to give a little perspective on this because this Netflix endeavor was quite interesting because they've got decent talent for this movie. I mean, really good acting talent. And they also uh, have Hollywood type quality for a Netflix movie. Anyone who's watched Netflix originals, they know they're a hit or miss, whether it be their series or their movies. But lately, they've been getting quite a bit of star power behind their films and their ventures into the movie part of the industry. And the reason why I wanted to see this is because I love when reviewers are angry about a particular film, especially one that they quote unquote uh, don't see as a regular movie because it wasn't made in Hollywood. It wasn't on a big lot. There wasn't a bunch of bells and whistles and them promoting this film. And that already hooked my interest. The second thing is I am a fan of Sandra Bullock, and I think she does great work. And for let's be real, she's an A-list talent, and not just an A-list talent that uh, is a has been, but someone with real power. I mean, she just came out with that female's version of Ocean Eights, which wasn't my cup of tea, but a few people seem to have liked it. It did moderately well in the box office. And so I found this intriguing that Netflix was able to snag her along with John Malkovich, who's a very accomplished actor himself. So, how does this movie stack up? Well, I'm going to give you an overview, the pros, the cons, and what my final thoughts are. The movie is based on the a story in which uh, kind of like in the same kind of setting as The Happening or A Quiet Place, where you have an entity that people see and it causes them to commit suicide. Now, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, and there may be slight spoilers, but I'm going to try to stay free of that. So, all of you who haven't watched the movie and are looking to watch this will not have it ruined for you. But long story short, these entities can't be seen, and those who lay eyes on them go mad and have a compulsion to off themselves. So, I mean, the premise has been done before. Intriguingly enough, uh, where The Happening falls short with its acting talent, I think Bird Box excels in the fact that it is, if nothing else, very well acted by those involved. Um, so, I mean, it's very believable, this thing that's happening. And of course, to move around, they devise a way by blindfolding themselves, which makes it intriguing because, in a sense, they have to be blind in order to see which way to go. You know, a nice little metaphorical thing, which I appreciate. So, getting to the pros. First off, this movie has quite a few scary and dramatic elements. The acting is very decent from all of the cast. I mean, the dialogue isn't even really cringy. It's it's actually well written. Um, the moments where they're wearing their blindfolds and they're going long distances, one moment in particular, which I don't want to ruin, but let's just say it would be extraordinarily hard to do with blindfolds on, was absolutely tense and very well crafted and believable, which is hard to do. Doing any scene where the actor can't use their eyesight and they're forced to use other things to help them navigate this world was very intriguing. The deaths were downright brutal, and I mean, there was real emotional connections between the characters. Not only that, but the personalities that they played off of each other were great. Serious nod to John Malkovich. He's always been my favorite actor, and I think in this role, even though there is slight tinge of political statement in it, it's very tastefully done. And for once, I can honestly say I could overlook the politics in this because it wasn't blatantly like thrown in your face. And Netflix is notorious for making very politically based shows. Sabrina, the remake, being one of them, which I may do a review if I can ever stomach it enough to get past the first episode. Because honestly, I turned it off after the first episode, and that's kind of the medium that Netflix falls into. This, though, is very tastefully done to where it's equal on all sides. And the way they make their argument is giving both sides very valid points. And I like that style of writing. Um, it's really just about people trying to survive in circumstances they don't understand, and how their different beliefs and ideologies, all being trapped in a confined space, start to come out. And I mean, it's anything like zombie apocalypse movies and things of that sort when you got a bunch of personalities and people forced to be in one place. If you've ever been over at a relative's house and you always have the mixture of personalities, anyone knows it could be a tough thing being stuck. And that's what people you know. Picture people you don't know being stuck in this situation. And I think they illustrate that great. The scenery is another strong positive. The scenery is absolutely stunning. I heard some had a Canadian type shoot to it, a particular scene. Once again, don't want to give anything away, but they're in a boat. And you'll understand what I mean from the very first point of the movie. I mean, the scenery is gorgeous. The imagery is brutal. And the other fact that I like is they don't show the creature. Now, part of me says that this was due to budgetary constraints, and part of me wants to believe from an artistic side of things. I hate these new movies where they have to show the monster or the killer. I think your imagination creates a better sense of what this thing can be, and it's truly frightening because your own mind is trying to piece together based on what you see and what's brought up later in the film. You kind of try to piece together what these entities are, what do they want. I mean, and the results are quite chilling. And the fact that they don't fully explain what this phenomenon is also a plus, because I hate the movies nowadays, and I did a review on Escape Room. You can watch that. But they beat us in the head to say, hey, this was a secret organization, blah, blah, blah. They're really secret. They're evil. We don't know their plans, right? And I think that storytelling makes the viewer feel stupid. Where here, our minds are left to wander. What are these creatures? What do they want? Where do they come from? Why is this happening? Why is it not excluded to town? Because they hint that it's around the world, and it starts in other parts of the country, and then bam, like that, it takes out everything and everything, and there's no rhyme or reason. And I think that's the scariest thing. That's the truly terrifying part of this movie. That's the hook. And I respect the hell out of that. I think that that is a missing art in a lot of stories. That's what made A Quiet Place so great. We did get the explanation, but not really. And things were jumbled and frightening, and that's why people gravitate to things like that. I think that's where the happening kind of fell flat, because when you find out it's a plant, yeah, the theory is pretty scary. Plants are everywhere, but you're like, really? A daffodil made people kill each other, right? And it loses its credibility. And where a lot of directors treat the audience like idiots, this film gives your mind free reign, and it kind of uses your mind against you. And I think that's the best kind of film. Those are the films that are classics. Psycho or any other great horror movie has always played people's mind, and those are the movies that get to my cons in a second. But I'm saying it makes it from an average horror typical Netflix release to something a little bit special. Now my cons and how this movie falls flat, at least for me. And I'm not saying it falls completely flat, but it misses the mark on something. And I'm not the only one who shares this opinion. There's something that holds this movie back from being a truly great and possibly brilliant horror, drama, action film. For starters, there is one thing I hated about the narrative, and I'm not spoiling anything. You'll see this at the very beginning of the film that ruins it, is the fact that they show Sandra Bullock and the people who survive. And I think that cheapens the audience connection to the characters. The point of a horror movie and the point that makes anything like this genre uh, truly shine is that you have to connect with the characters. If you can't make that connection with those characters, then you lose something along the way, right? Why people care about certain movies or why people think movies are good is because you're invested in the characters and their quest. You are invested in what they're trying to do. And if they strip that from you too early in the film, then it loses its credibility because then you're not looking at the characters as characters or people that are going through stuff, but you're looking at them as a plot device, a means to the end. You already know what's going to happen, and it takes away that bit of magic from the film. Now, I see what they were trying to do here, and it's a Quentin Tarantino-esque kind of storytelling where they start from the middle close to the end and they take you back to the events in the beginning. But the brilliant thing about Quentin Tarantino is his events that he drops you in is so obscured that you really don't know where the starting point is. And you don't know the characters that are going to get to that point. And then you invest your time and energy in these characters. So when he kills someone, it's impactful and you feel it. This film gave away the ending before the story started. And for any intelligent movie watcher, it really makes it hard for you to connect to the people because you already know half of them aren't going to make it, if not any of them. And that ruins the film. Now, I'm not going to tell you who for the sake of not ruining the film, but if you're a smart movie watcher such as myself, you'll pretty much figure out who's going to live and die. You're not going to figure out how, and I guess that will kind of make it enjoyable, but you're going to know in the back of your mind, oh my goodness, this person isn't going to make it, this person isn't going to make it, this person isn't going to make it. And for a movie with a close to 2 hour runtime, that is not a good start because why invest in this journey? The other reason where this falls flat is not the very end, but about a half hour left in the movie. 20 minutes of that feels very contrived, and it feels as if they ran out of ways to get a character from point A to point B. Don't get me wrong. The very, very end, the last 2 to 3, 4 minutes, or no, to be fair, the last 5 to 10 minutes, all right, I'd say really pulls it together and saves it from being a truly horrid movie. I especially appreciated the very end of the film, and if you watch it, feel free to leave me comments to let me know what you think. But there is the whole beginning, about an hour and a half, where you're really invested. Then something happens, and then there's just a brief couple of action scenes that don't make sense to the narrative of the story. And I understand why they did it the way they did it because they had to get these characters to that certain point. But it really is a crude way get rid of some really great characters and a particular character that I loved throughout this film. The way that their death in particular is handled, I didn't like. I thought that it was less impactful and it would have been more meaningful had it been done a different way. However, forgive me, I don't know who the actor is, but the African fellow in it, the only one, ironically enough, because this is a horror movie and it does fall into those tropes. Um, I can honestly say he in particular, though, has one most standout scene in the movie because we share similar backgrounds. And I thought that that was a nice touch by the directors. So overall, what is my feelings of this movie? Watch the movie, and I think that you'd agree. It's a good watch, and I'd recommend it for anyone. It's a good way to kill 2 hours on a snow day such as today, right? When there's really nothing to do and you want some new content. I mean, I literally shut off my phone because I like to play games while I'm watching shows, and I literally turned it off to watch this. I mean, I was in it. Even though that beginning part ruined some of what was going to happen, I was very much in it. It did intrigue me. I think the premise intrigued me. Now, my problem was this, and the reason why I already had a strike against this film is because we've already seen this. And it really is a quiet place in reverse. You know, you're switching out one sense for another, but in the end, it takes a lot of cues from that. In the end, it takes a lot of cues from the happening with the whole mass suicide thing. A quiet place with the whole instead of you can't let the creatures hear you, you can't see them. It really did take a lot of cues, and it had potential to flip those and make its own true original story, and it just doesn't quite make it. I don't know what it is. I don't know where the point in the movie is where it loses something, but it just loses something that just by a margin takes it away from what makes the film uh, from a good film to a great film. Now, some people would argue, and I debated with my dad, but I always still could never break that mode that it reminds me of A Quiet Place. It reminds me of The Happening. It reminds me of the every other apocalyptic thing that I've seen. Sure, they flip the premise and they make it interesting. Lord knows the acting keeps you engaged, but it just doesn't quite get that one thing it needs to edge itself over those movies. And I think a lot of people who have seen A Quiet Place, or God help us, the very few who enjoyed The Happening, hey, I don't care. Some people who subscribe to this channel have feelings about that movie. I still liked it. The acting was terrible, but there was just something about it that I liked. I can't put my finger on it, but I liked it. Anyways, so in short, do I think this is washable? Or, as my title would state, should you put this bird back in its box? And I would say no. I'd say let it fly free. If this is what Netflix can do with some decent writers and a strong cast, I think Hollywood is right to be upset and try to pan this movie because they do have something to be worried about. This is a great acted film. I mean, 2 hours doesn't feel like 2 hours. Whereas I've gone to recent movies and I'm at the hour and a half mark and I'm like, come on, when are we going to get to the good stuff, especially Glass? But you've already seen my review for that. Um, I think that this movie is on the cusp of putting Netflix in a place where it will be a strong contender. And Lord help them when they get some serious talent because the talent will be flocking to the streaming service. I mean, they already got Henry Cavill, who plays Superman, and we all know those movies are a hit or miss. But he also did the breakout hit Mission Impossible Fallout, which, whether you like or hate that franchise, it was a great entry, right? So they got him to do the new series Witcher coming out. I mean, they're getting serious star power onto Netflix. I mean, they've gotten Natalie Portman in that movie Annihilation. I mean, they are pulling great talent to the streaming service. And mark my words, I wouldn't be surprised if like 2, 3 years from now, you're going to see a lot more people making Netflix original movies, and the industry suffering for it because they can't see what Netflix sees. That's is the future. This is going back to what people want to see in a film. And if nothing else, I think that this movie sparks lively debates, and I think that the fact that it's been so widely and wildly received, that this really opens the door for more films like it. And to tell you the truth, I'm excited because God knows my box office outings have been terrible. So, anyways, if you liked this, thank you to all of the people who have. Last count was like everybody for subscribing, and if you do like it, tell your friends about my channel. Click that like button, hit the bell to get notifications of when I post, and hit that subscribe button. If I keep on getting likes on these videos, I'll post more frequently. And as always, have a good day. Drink some hot cocoa, kick your feet back, and look at that streaming service for some other great films. I'll be bringing you more of these reviews to come. Thanks, and God bless.